to the Healing Half. My name is Mickey Spear, formerly Mickey Sir, and I am with my family today. And boy, do we have a show for you. Before we do get to the show, though, I just want to quickly introduce myself. So I'm Mickey Spear. I am a grief author, musician, and talk show host. We lost my mom when I was 13. We'll get more into that story here in just a moment. And I spent the better part of a decade avoiding feeling, avoiding processing. So I wanted to come up with a show that helped all of us lean into our grief and learn how to help others in theirs. And it's not just grief. On the show, we talk about a bunch of different topics. So welcome to the show tonight. I can't wait for you guys to hear our different perspectives on the same loss. But before we do, I want to hear from you. Where are you calling in from? Just give us a hello. We can kind of see off to the side, and we would love to know that you are here watching. That's whether you're watching live or as a replay. And if you haven't signed up yet, make sure you are on my email list because I'm over here now. Make sure you're on my email list because we will be sending you the replay of the show as well as a bunch of information. And this week's big thing that was in the email list, which is just another little incentive for you to get on there, is for you to head to mickyspear.com. All of that is in the comment section. And you could have a chance to win an amazing, beautiful book called Dear One. The winner of this week's free book giveaway from last week's episode is Lizanne McClellan. So thank you so much. Woo! Yeah. So I'll make sure I reach out to you after the show. But if you didn't win, I know a lot of people threw their names in the ring. Don't worry about it. Michelle, who's the author of this book, is so generous. And she basically said, hey, anybody who hears about the book from your show, tell them to use the code HEALINGHALF and you get $5 off the book. So make sure you go to her website, order it from there, and then you can enter in the code. And she's just a fantastic human being anyway. So you should make sure you are connecting with her on a lot of different levels. The second thing that I wanted to quickly do before we get to these hooligans behind me is I wanted to talk about tomorrow night, I will be performing on Wings for Widows, which is a fantastic organization. Let me know in the comments if you've heard of Wings for Widows before. They put on a really great financial prep course a couple months ago now at this point, it seems like. But I will be performing and speaking with them tomorrow night. So if you want to join me and Wings for Widows, you don't have to be a widow to join. It's a free event. It's tomorrow night at 7 Central. I'll be playing you some of my new music. We'll be talking about legacy, and it's all perfect kind of leading into Mother's Day if you have lost a mom. So that's tomorrow night as well. And last but certainly not least, because we are going into Mother's Day, one of my friends who lost her mom to, I believe it was lymphoma, wanted me just to ask you guys, kind of in honor of her for Mother's Day, if you would consider donating to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. The link is in the comments. She's running a big fundraiser, trying to do that in honor of her mom for Mother's Day, which is just so beautiful. So if you feel led, please consider giving to Lauren's fundraiser. I think that's just a beautiful way to honor our moms. And speaking of that, let's introduce ourselves, everybody here. So again, this is my amazing family. We're from Eden Prairie, Minnesota. And what I wanted to do tonight is to invite us to talk about our mom, Amy, who passed away, but share how all of us I'll let you meet them in just a moment, how all of us lost the same person, but have a very different perspective on who that person was to us. Now, the reason this resonates and the reason this is important to talk about is when you are talking with a family, like we've all got family, friends, and families we care about. When they lose somebody, it's important to remember they're all experiencing different things. So when you want to help them in a way that's effective, it's really important to remember, okay, Anna's probably going through this. Mickey might be going through this. Mike might be going through this. Katie's over there. And that's why I just wanted to share this. Not only will we get to honor my mom. And we'll talk a little bit more about Mother's Day at the end here, but also just to give everybody some perspective. So, without further ado, whether you are watching live or as a replay, welcome. Let us know you're here. Keep us posted on your thoughts throughout it. And we're just going to get into our very first ever group interview on the Healing Half. So, welcome, family. I love you dearly, each and every one of you. My first question is, what is your name? Who are you to me? And how old were you when our mom Amy got sick and when she died? We'll start with you, Anna.
I'm Anna. I'm Mickey's sister. I was 2 when she got sick, and I was 4 when she died.
I'm Katie. I am Mickey's sister, and the middle sister. And I was 8 when she was diagnosed, and I was 10, just about to turn 11 when Mom passed away.
I'm Mike. I'm dad to all three. And Amy was 40 and I was 41 when she was diagnosed with cancer, and she passed away just a few weeks after she turned 43, and I was 44.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. It's so good to have you here. I know Dad and Katie have been on the show before, so if you remember their episodes, let us know in the comments. But this is Anna's first time, so everybody give a big welcome to Anna. We are very excited that she is joining us all the way from Miami while she's home just for a little bit. So the next question that I wanted to kind of ask is, being that Mom died of cancer, what was the hardest part of her being sick? And to back up, I just feel like this kind of sets the stage going into it, because families need help while people are sick too. Who would like to start?
Maybe we'll start with Katie.
Sure. I would say the biggest shift I noticed at that age was that everything had to be more serious, a little more intentional, a little more heavy. Everything just felt a little extra heavier every event. And so it was just a bigger deal to do something as a family or go to something or add something to our plate. Everything was just a little heavier is what I would say.
I don't remember that much, honestly. But I do remember that it was just very confusing and scary, and I was just very lost.
Yeah, I mean, you were 2. How can a 2-year-old reconcile it? But I think it's fair to say kids of any age, but especially younger kids who maybe can't articulate what they're trying to say, they feel it. So thinking of you always, Anna. How about you, Dad?
Well, as your mom and I went through this, it was so heavy. It was just it was the C word. And we talked about it before she got diagnosed. Let's make sure this is not the C word. So when it happened, it was just like, oh, I mean, this is serious business. And so we knew that, had a resolve to keep things as normal as possible, which was really hard to do since everything was uprooted. But the kids still needed to get fed, still needed to go to school, and still needed to go to, church and life and stuff like that. So the biggest thing that I just remember is that Amy and I did everything we could to just try to keep things normal for everybody.
Wow. Yeah, and you guys did a great job. I think the hardest part of her being sick for me was, and this is kind of part of my whole story, is I didn't really lean into my emotions. I never really put words to it, but I think I subconsciously knew where the train could go. And so for me, it was scary. I think that was the hardest part of her being sick, was just this, like, okay, God, we trust you. We went to church, we did the prayers, we did all that stuff. So she's not going to be sick, but I think in the very back of my mind, that was a possibility, and that was really scary. So yeah, I think it's great to hear. I'm sorry. I just wish we could just take it all away, right? It's so crazy that we're talking about this 14 years later. But I guess as how it goes, as you all know how this story ends, there's only 4 of us here. So she did end up passing away on March 15th, 2007. So my next question to kind of all of you is, what was going through your mind as you were getting either ready for the funeral or at the funeral?
I'll start. So I remember at the funeral, I was very confused and I was just wondering what just happened. Where's my mom? What's going on? Why is everyone so sad? I had no clue what was going on and it was a very confusing time for me.
I'm sorry, Anna.
I would say similar in a way. I remember just thinking, wow, these are so many people here. Everybody we know is here, and everybody that everybody knows is here.
Right.
And I think, yeah, I just had a lot of confusion with what all was going on. It all happened so fast. I was kind of like, well, I'm kind of excited to see these people, but I'm sad, but I'm a little confused. So I would just say, yeah, confused was a big one.
Awesome. I hope you guys can all hear the phone ringing in the background when all four people are off from the. This is what happens, but this is a real, authentic interview, and you're getting the real look behind.
Having a
the
home
scenes.
phone is awesome.
Having a home phone. Oh gosh. Well, and Katie, I would kind of echo that, and Anna too. For me, I knew what was happening very much, but I think I've mentioned this on the show before. I was so unfortunately, I cared way too much about what other people thought and what they thought of me. And so I distinctly remember at the funeral, I was fighting pneumonia. I was sick. I don't know if you guys remember that.
That was bad.
So if that tells you my body was emotionally, they say when you're really going through a lot of emotions, you can get sick a lot easier. Let me know if you can relate in the comment section. That's something you hear a lot. So no wonder I got pneumonia for the first and only time ever. But also I just remember being very, don't talk to me, like, oh, hey, it was like a party almost. Like I felt like I was hosting an event and I didn't, like all these people came, which was so sweet, but I didn't know them well. I didn't want them to see me cry. I was very walled off from that. And so I remember being like, oh, I'm good. How are you doing? Like at my own mom's funeral. And again, I don't know the solution other than I just didn't have the emotional maturity to do that. So I guess what I would say to you guys watching, if you do talk to a teenager or a kid and they seem to be doing like oddly well, take that with a grain of salt and just remember it's vulnerable to grieve with somebody. So don't be offended if they don't want to open up to you, but we'll get to a couple other ways that you can help in a little bit because they are hurting. They're just not sharing that. So Dad, how about you though?
Well, to kind of build on what you just said, at the visitation, Anna was playing with her cousin. She's 4, but Mickey and Katie were by me the whole time. People were coming through, and we found ourselves maybe a little different slant of what Michaela just said is we became the comforter, oddly, because everybody was so sad coming through, and we're obviously devastated, but it's like we were consoling others because everybody was just so sad. And on the funeral, during that, and we're following a beautiful white casket, I'm carrying Anna. I just thought to myself, what a horrible sight to see this for people who weren't us 4. How tragic is that? And so that's the part I remember most is it's like to some, like Michaela just said, really before the funeral, talking to people and everybody came in, it's like I was consoling them because they're so sad. And so that's what I remember most about that. And of course, the funeral itself was beautiful and gut wrenching and everything like that. But just so proud of my all 3 of you guys that everybody just hung in there and stayed together. And it was a tragic scene. It was really hard to be part of it, obviously, but to see it, I just know it was just a lot of really sad people.
No, that's great, Dad. And I, as an adult, obviously you've got us kids, and we got a lot of people watching with big hearts who want to help and they want to be there. Is there anything people could have done to help out more at the funeral or make it an easier, like if you just found out somebody lost a mom, like what would you say to their immediate circle? Like, this is how you can help make the funeral a little bit smoother. Sorry to throw you on the spot like that.
Well, how about I start? I think just showing up mattered most. Just the fact that people were there and they wanted to express their heart. Nobody can there's no words, to make it magically go away or anything like that. But just be there to kind of together to mourn this loss was that's how you can help, is be there for the family. Just even if you don't have anything clever to say, because just being there and being part and being supportive and being part of that grieving process in the morning of it, I think is how people can really help.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dad. So to kind of go off of the funeral, we know grief does not stop at the funeral, even though culture kind of acts like it does, which is too bad. So following that, kind of in those initial first years, what would you say your biggest difference was? Like, what was the biggest change that you noticed? And this is to hopefully give people perspective on how life was different after that.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so my life changed, obviously, in many ways. I was very lost and confused. Things got very stressful at home, and I didn't fully understand what happened. I just knew that my mom wasn't there anymore. So I got really mad, and that turned me into an angry, quiet kid. I started counseling in kindergarten because of this, and I was really sad.
Hmm. Thank you for sharing, Anna. I really appreciate that. Katie, would you like to add?
I would just say there was a big increase in independence. I think, Dad was doing the best he could, and we all just had to step up to the plate. So that was a big part of growing up early. Is you're like, okay, and we had to, take care of Anna and make sure that you were doing okay, and everyone was getting their ducks in a row and all that stuff. So I think a big increase in independence at such a young age.
Yeah, I guess I'll kind of just add to it because, of the perspectives that we have here, we have parent to lost as a very young child, and Katie and I, not that our situations are the same, but I feel like we had kind of more similarities. I would say the biggest thing that changed for me was just, and I know it sounds like so obvious, but that you could just see over and over and over again in examples that in places you would never think of that, but it's so obvious that you don't have a mom anymore.
Yep.
It'd be like, you don't think about it, but like sports games, parent conferences, just seeing other people get picked up by their moms, it's just like, it's everywhere. And here I was, this walled off, angry, because I was, didn't know how to process these emotions, middle schooler, and I'm getting these constant reminders. And I almost feel like, in a way, I noticed them, and then I built that wall up even stronger because I was like, I noticed it, I'm going away. I'm gonna just like keep running, keep avoiding it. So I think the biggest change for me is I just noticed over and over and over again the gap in the hole. And like you said, I was the oldest. Katie took on a lot too. So then, we had been helping out mom for a while because she was sick. But yeah, it's like, okay, like Dad has a full-time job. Like we're getting help with the rides and stuff. But all of it is like a subtle jab of a reminder of why am I getting picked up for basketball? And I hated the charity. I hated that because it was, it just reminded me of the truth. And I didn't want to let people in, and I didn't want to feel like a charity case, but they are doing it out of the goodness of your heart. So I was a charity case, and it was very nice of them. But I just think that was my biggest challenge as like this kind of angsty teenager who's already like at that middle school fighting for independence age, to like have to rely on other people and have like everybody know this like very vulnerable thing about me was really hard. And I know all of us kind of have kind of similar versions of that.
Well, I think you guys did have to grow very quickly. You guys have shown yourself as so responsible and just more mature than the people your age, because you had to. The biggest change for me was, once again, we all know that she's not there. Going to the same house and where there's nobody there to cook, it all kind of fell to me in people who would help. But just trying to keep things as normal as possible, trying to make sure the girls are getting to school or getting to the bus or getting picked up, or me going to parent teacher conferences, which was new, and trying to keep it as normal, but always the constant reminder, the ripple effects that Amy's gone and their mom's not there, and how heartbreaking it is sitting at a basketball game. Everybody else's mom and dad's around, or a choir concert or something like that, and their mom's not there. And your child's up on stage or out on the court or whatever, heartbroken.
Yeah.
And so that's the part that of that first year was just these constant reminders that their mom's gone.
Yeah.
It's so permanent. That's like the word that just keeps up, where it's just like you when you're in it, you sometimes think to yourself, this isn't real, right? Like this is a joke, or is this just a bad dream? But then every day goes by and you're like, nope, like this is real. I don't know about you guys, if you ever had a moment, and I'll just kind of maybe ask, this is off the cuff. Did you ever have a double take moment where
No.
you thought she was alive?
Mine was at a volleyball tournament, and I saw someone who I think I might have known actually, so it was like a little bit of a familiar face, and walking, and I was like, wait, she's here.
Yeah.
She wasn't, you know, so that was probably just a couple years later, but it was, oh, and then I think immediately, yeah, lots of double takes of just like, oh, tall, beautiful blonde, that must be them.
That must be her.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Anna or Dad? Did you ever have like a double take where you're like, again, it's that awareness of this, I'm living in this nightmare, but maybe it's not for
Yeah.
like a half minute. Like maybe this was all a bad dream.
No.
That's okay. You were young. Yeah.
Well, I think when I see Amy's sisters, Gail and Donnie in particular, see them and just kind of that startling resemblance. That's probably would be my version of that. It's just, wow.
Yeah.
Just like Amy, you know. And,
Right. I know for me, I was at a volleyball practice in this big gym in our town of Eden Prairie. And I was on, I remember it bright as day. I just remember looking over and like Katie said, it was like in a distance, but I saw a tall blonde kind of like walk through. And it was like, I was so walled off. I was so closed off. Like I wanted the whole world to know I was fine. But in that moment, it was like my heart leapt. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, sorry, I want to cry, but that's what we do on the show. Yeah, and it was, I mean, talk about a crash down, you know, and it's like you have that oh my gosh, they're alive. Like, like it doesn't make sense, but like in that moment you have that thing, and then you realize it's not, and it just hurts so much worse. And so me being very closed off at that age, I think I excused myself to go to the bathroom and I just sobbed. You know, it was so heart-wrenching. So I just kind of want to let you guys know, like, even though people might put on a good face, like, I'm fine, I'm good, don't believe it. Grief is hard and you can't get through this stuff. So anyway, so thank you for letting me kind of go off on that. But that kind of leads us to the question, I'm sure if you guys are thinking, well, geez, how can I help? You know, you guys might be watching and wanting to be like, this is terrible. Like, what can I do? So I guess that kind of leads me to the question of what was one thing that somebody did for you that was kind of unique to you that really made a difference? And I think we'll start with you, Anna Banana.
So a church friend, Marsha, Marsha, we love Marsha. She gave lockets to all three of us, I know, but mine had an A on it, so it could be for Anna or Amy.
Oh.
And so it was like you open it up, and on one side it was her picture, and one side it was mine, and that meant so much more to me than everyone telling me how sorry they were or their condolences or something. All these grown-ups, all these adults telling me that, but I really cherished that locket, and that meant a lot to me.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. I forgot about that.
I did
That's
too.
amazing. Thank you, Anna, for bringing that back up.
I have two things. One, my dance teacher, similar to Anna, maybe there's a gift. My dance teacher gave me a bunny. Avers is his name, and he lives strong. And I slept with Avers every night for years and years until like well into my 20s. And so that was just, again, another sweet gift. And I remember she told me, because my dance teacher then picked me up at my house to take me to dance class on her way, which is super sweet. And she said, he has long arms so he can hug you. And that was all that it was. And I loved Avers. He was just the best. So I think it's just a random thing, but I think, yeah, like, gifts are good. And like a special gift, I remember my class, you know, kind of got me some gifts. And we talked about that on our last episode. Shout out. And I remember, like, okay, like this fluffy blankie is actually a little bit of a memorial in a way, which was sweet. And then I would also say my neighbor, lifelong best friend, Savannah, she was the distinct person that we didn't talk about the grief for a long time, well over 6 months or so, because I was just so normal with her. And I think what was like specifically helpful to me was that people just letting me be normal. And like, it's to piggyback off of what Mickey said earlier, is I didn't have the emotional intelligence to articulate what I was feeling. I had no idea what I was feeling. And so if there's a way to help a little kid and say, like, here are all the options that you could be feeling, which one resonates, like a word bank or something that's like a kid version. Honestly, I feel like I would have really liked that, because I didn't know what to feel. I was like, well, I don't know. Like, we just don't have that vocabulary yet, and we don't have that emotional understanding. So I would say having options, oddly, would be like, do you feel like this today? Or this, or this, or this today? And then I would be able to articulate it a little better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say for me, again, back to the thing of, if you guys are watching, I will write a book one day to help you out with all this, so don't worry about it. I think we might all chime in on this book, but it'll be how to help a grieving child, and it will have all this in there and more. But the big takeaway is, in order for someone to like really open up to you, I mean, all of us here probably didn't open up to like anyone besides maybe like one person. So like, if that puts it in perspective, we had how many hundreds of people at the funeral caring about us, but we're not opening up to them. So don't take it personally. Just understand, like, grief is super vulnerable. And for a kid, the trust has to be through the roof to even start that conversation. So that's why counselors are so great, because it's kind of this like designated third party person. Not that I was super open with my counselor either, but at least like it was better. Like I would talk a little bit more than I would with even these family members who have been in my life for so long. It wasn't because I didn't love them. It wasn't because I didn't think they loved me. I just, for whatever reason, didn't have, it wasn't the trust even. I wouldn't even, long story short, the best gift that somebody gave me, as somebody who didn't want to talk, I didn't want your sympathy. I was a 6'2", 7th grader. Like, I didn't want any more attention on me than I already was. And of course, mom died. So that added more attention to this very shy, believe it or not, I was shy, the shy, awkward, tall middle schooler. So what I would say helped me, like uniquely as a middle schooler, would be those things that I could take back to my little layer of my privacy in my room and like open it on my own time. You know, kids love gifts. And I don't think, hopefully that's like coming through here. It's like we at that age receive love through gifts, and like that's our language more. And
it's tactile.
It's tactile. Yeah. And like as you get older, you can articulate and you can appreciate more verbal or experiences as far as gifts go. But at that age, a hard gift is a nice thing. And so I know some of the things that really meant a lot to me, even if I never would have admitted it at the time, was somebody gave me like a photo album. And she just, I don't know if you guys remember, Deb did that. I don't know what trip it was. I'm sure I could find it and dig it up. But she just printed off a bunch of photos and just threw them in this album for us, which was so nice. Because yeah, we could just kind of look through it on our own time. And I would say that plus like a card that I could open privately and just digest on my own was so nice, because it didn't force me to like be vulnerable with somebody, because that put the worst taste in my mouth. That would be a counter gift. Like the opposite of a gift would be like forcing me to like talk about it in that moment. But I did read them, and I did go back home, and they did mean a lot. So that definitely helped me as like a angsty middle schooler.
Obviously, as the being in my 40s, I wasn't quite looking for gifts or anything like that. Everybody was so good to our family in so many ways. What I remember most, and it ties in probably with what everybody said a little bit, is when you're allowed to just be yourself and not be focused on the loss all the time. and hey, how are you and stuff like that. Rather, I'd go home to the farm with our family and just be, like I was as a, as a kid, and just didn't have to focus on the loss. Everybody knows you're sad. Everybody's sad, but just allows me to just kind of be. And same thing going to church, and people would stop by and just talk and say, talking about stuff, and buddies of mine, and getting together for a long weekend someplace, and just kind of allowing life to kind of be the new normal, if you want to call it that, but not so heavily focused on the loss itself, because it doesn't do a lot of good when you sit around and focus on it. So that's, I think, the uniqueness that everybody brought, and so many people did, is just let me be. And but so many people were so good to our family and pitching in with rides and everything. It was just the feet of God just helping, and it was just it was an amazing thing. We called it Amy's Army before she passed away, and after she passed away, we had so many people helping and allowing us to do the things that we needed to do. And then when we weren't involved in that, being part of our friends and family at my age and stuff like that, just being 40-year-olds, it was just a really good thing.
Absolutely. There's a time and a place. Well, I really appreciate your perspective, Dad. There's a time and a place where you just want to be normal. You're like, please, like, just stop treating me with like these dainty gloves, or
it's like grief fatigue.
Yeah, you're like, I just want to be normal. I will add, in addition to that, let's remember there's a target, right? You've got the people in your immediate circle, your people who are perhaps more friends. They're still your friends, but you're not going to call them right away with an emergency. Your acquaintances, and then you've got kind of community members who care about you, but you don't really know them well. As you get closer and closer to that center, that's where like the trust is established. And so the only reason why I want to kind of just like add that is you guys are getting like our perspective, but I wanted to put a little caveat in there. I've interviewed a lot of other people who said almost the exact opposite things that we're all saying. And they said, why won't they talk to me about him? Why is everybody like treating me like I'm normal? I'm not normal. My person just died. And so what I would say is, Dad, your point is extremely valid, and I love that. And for you guys listening, to remember that everyone's going to be different, and remembering where you fall on that, be honest with yourself. Are they one of your 911 people? Because if you wouldn't call them for an emergency, they probably wouldn't call you for an emergency. And that's really the group that needs to step up in those moments, and be there and kind of say, we can be normal today, but we also can talk about them today. What do you want? Give them the options. Someday they'll take it up, some days they won't. But ask those options, I would say, but still ask, like, don't just take, because one day I don't want to talk about it doesn't mean I never want to, because other people desperately want to talk about it. So it's that fine line, and all you can do is ask. So I would say keep asking, but also try to read the room. Like if somebody just wants to go bowling, just let them bowl maybe, and just like have fun, but understand that the closer you are to that center, it's a good thing to keep tabs on people, because as you know, with my story, I said I was fine and I wanted to be normal, but that wasn't what was best for me either. And this is why 10 years later, I had a collapsing moment. So that's just kind of my very roundabout way of, I don't need to delegitimize your thoughts at all, Dad. They're super valid. And this is just our perspective. So as we wrap up this healing half, you guys, I do have one last question for everybody. And we'll kind of sign off from there. So maybe we'll start with Anna and just kind of go down the line. And yeah, we've got a fifth guest tonight, the sunlight. Oh my gosh. So sorry. It is what it is.
Beautiful.
So how would you say your life is different than either your peers or between us? How is, again, one loss, four perspectives. How is your loss kind of different than the other one sitting here at this table? Done?
My loss is different. Well, as dad, I'm still the caretaker, whether they're 4 years old all the way up to 27, it's still, you're just dad. And so it's just, that's just a completely, you guys can't have that because, that's, you guys might share different things because you're of similar age,
Yeah.
but that's unique to me. It's just, I'm always dad. And what's different than when you get outside of just immediate, my girls, is going to Christmas parties and I'm the one sitting there without a wife. There's a lot of reminders that have been there for these last 15 years. And so it's the new normal. Life's still wonderful.
Yeah.
Everybody, the sun does rise and set right in our eyes tonight. But life's just different from a now 50-some-year-old perspective. It's been, the new normal, which started, when Amy passed away, was as an adult and being part of other adults and other peers that everybody I know is married. So it's different.
Yeah, I mean, you lost a wife, and we lost a mom. So it's like there's the same person, but a very different relationship. And that's so thank you so much for being here, Dad. I love you so dearly. How about you, Sunshine?
I would say, emotionally speaking, I've always just felt an interesting connection. I've been the only blonde one, the only, which I do feel very connected to Mom in that way. And of course the loss and everything of just the absence of her, of not getting to experience things. I think physically and experience wise, I would say I've had a really unique experience because the trauma of experiencing that loss was the first of, a handful of traumas throughout my teen years. And that was kind of the first point that now experiencing that childhood trauma, I've been the one to experience very severe health issues. And that's been challenging in a ton of ways. And it's hard because I naturally feel some of those parallels to what Mom had experienced. And she's also not here to experience them with me because her journey didn't go so well. And so I think that's where I've had a kind of unique journey because I had very severe, fortunately I've not had cancer, but I've had other diseases, and that's been a really tough journey as well. So it all kind of started from probably being triggered by that childhood trauma that weakened my immune system.
Well, thank you for sharing, Lake. We love you. Everybody pray for Katie for all of her health stuff, if you don't mind. How about you, Anna Banana?
I felt different than my peers almost immediately because I felt like an outsider because the other kids were much happier than I was, and they had their mom come to school events. And my dad remarried when I was 6 or 7, and it was hard on me because once again, I didn't know what that actually meant, really, what that meant. And what was happening. And we just moved houses. So there was just so much change happening right there. And it fueled my anger a lot because I felt I had no control and everything was happening to me and I didn't have a say in it at all. So that's how I felt kind of different from them. But I think my childhood from 4 to 13 was very different than the rest of my family because they had more, I guess, stability in the earlier years. And they also had good memories with Mom, but especially they had more memories with my dad because he was very busy and there wasn't much time for me. I'm sure I acted out a lot back then because I craved attention. I had to figure out a lot by myself, which made me grow up pretty fast. I felt out of place until high school. Because it felt like my peers were all much younger and more mature than me, definitely. I also pushed people away because I didn't know how to handle the death. So I really had a strained relationship with my dad and my sisters growing up. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it was very strange because I just pushed everyone away and it was very hard. So that's how I kind of felt different than with my family and my peers.
Oh, thank you for sharing it. I love you. It's crazy. And you kind of hit the nail on the head. And this is the last thing I say. I know we're well past our time. I got mom until I was 13. And granted, with the trauma of grief, I actually have a lot of gaps in my memory. We can talk about that another time. There's things, I see photos of 6th, 5th grade, and I have no idea what happened just because my brain, it just blocks some things out. But still, I had a mom until I was 13, and you did after 4. I mean, like those formative years, mine were cut short, but yours were cut to peanuts. So I'm just our heart just breaks for you, Anna. It breaks for all of us, but especially you, little Annabelle. I would just say for me, I think what was just like maybe a little unique is I was the oldest. So even though like Katie did so much, like you did your laundry, like so it wasn't like I was doing too much like heavy lifting here. Like we all pitched in. But I did feel kind of like, okay, I'm next in line. Like I was the next one. I had to go through high school first. So I got to do all the awkward stuff, and Katie got to learn from my mistakes and just blossom as she walked through the door. So I would just kind of say with that, like that was kind of unique because it's like, oh, like I'm the oldest. I could drive first, which don't get me wrong, I loved driving my sister's places, and what a gift to have a car. But I would say that was kind of like my unique perspective. So for all of you out there with big hearts and who want to help families, I hope this was helpful for you. I hope that as you're thinking of ways to help, that these perspectives spark new ideas and that you can get creative and use your gifts and strengths to help out any one of these perspectives that I said. I just hope that there's another family out there. Well, I don't hope there's another family out there that lost their mom. No. But that's the world. And so if you do know a family with kids and you feel close enough to them to really be part of that journey with them, I commend you for that. That is one of the most honorable acts you can ever do. And we just thank you for doing that. So thanks so much for being here, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys. Oh, thanks.